Hello wrestling fans, the Wrestling Wizard here and welcome to another video. Now where do I start? Vinnie Mac, what are you doing to your company? When are you finally going to wake up and listen to your WWE audience and start making some logical decisions and actually following through with storylines and trusting your own talent? Now granted, Vinnie Mac is the creator of WWE, of course he is. He's created superstars in The Undertaker, The Rock, Stone Cold, Triple H, Mankind, Kurt Angle, Kane, the list could go on and on. However, give this video a like if you think it's time for Vince McMahon to finally move on and give someone else a turn, because I do question so many of the bookings, and also what I think is really snaky in light of some recent reports is the way you've handled Bray Wyatt and his whole departure from WWE. Think about it logically, right? And I know I'm going to sound biased because I'm a huge Bray Wyatt fan. I was a massive fan of his work in WWE. I was fortunate enough to see the guy in person. Alongside that, I did actually see The Undertaker and Kane as well at the same time, which is absolutely, I'll never forget that. But I remember being amazed by how awesome he was on the microphone and that general persona. And the whole arena at the time just stood still and listened to him. He was in this major heel role at the moment and rivalry with The Undertaker. And you fast forward all the way through, he's been able to reinvent himself, and just under 2 years ago, you think about Bray Wyatt and his alter ego, The Fiend, and that gimmick, that was one of the hottest prospects in WWE in, I think personally, in the last decade or so. I remember watching his debut, his in-ring debut at SummerSlam against Finn Balor, and on entrance, I remember literally getting goosebumps when I was watching that. It was the perfect fit for a gimmick. Even The Undertaker gave kudos to that gimmick and subtly said to Bray Wyatt behind the scenes, protect that gimmick, don't let Vince get too hands-on. And what happened? Our worst nightmare. I remember reading so many comments on that debut and people saying, look, this is perfect, don't ruin it. And I honestly fell into the trap of believing that WWE couldn't ruin that. It was so good, and that they trusted in Bray Wyatt to follow through that gimmick. And fast forward, July the 31st, you released Bray Wyatt from WWE, one of your most talented performers. Now granted, he wasn't the best in-ring performer in WWE, far from it, but he was a performer, he was a creative genius. He brought a different side to wrestling in WWE, which quite frankly, Vince in WWE didn't know what to do with, didn't know how to book it, and ultimately, they didn't know how to adapt to that type of darker character. And WWE, at this moment, are the ones that look bad, because they're saying that Bray Wyatt was released due to budget cuts. We know that wasn't true. There was 20 plus people literally trying to get in contact with certain reporters to try and get some inside information as to what actually happened, because they didn't buy it. Nobody bought it. We didn't buy it. We looked at it as just, look, that's just a cast off. He's one of the biggest merchandise movers in WWE. Why would they release him due to budget cuts? Never made any sense. So essentially that's lies. That wasn't the reason why he was released, so why say that? What's happening is becoming more clear. According to some recent reports, there was some serious beef on the time just before WrestleMania 37, where the matchup was going to be, of course, between Randy Orton and The Fiend. A burnt version at the time is what we perceived was going to happen. And it already sort of seemed to stem from Fastlane, where we saw the debut of this burnt version of The Fiend, a re-debut of The Fiend, like a kind of version 2. After seemingly he'd been burnt alive by Randy Orton the previous year. And it was cool, it kind of made sense. He comes back in this darker version. However, I'm not sure what your opinions are, so it'd be great to hear your thoughts and opinions, but for me, something didn't seem quite right about that. When I looked at that gimmick, yeah, the props were amazing, the costume was cool, but I was like, hang on, how is he going to wrestle in that thing? How is he going to breathe in that thing? It seemed a bit heavy, seems a bit clunky, but I trusted WWE because I thought they're going to make something work. It always will, and of course this is Bray Wyatt, hopefully getting a say-so in this, so it'll work out. Now what's clearly happened is, Vince allegedly had some beef with Bray Wyatt speaking out about his gimmick and basically being protective about his gimmick, because you would. if you put your blood, sweat and tears into that gimmick and it's going to be made a mockery of on the grandest stage of all, you're going to speak up. And I can see what's happened here. Vince has gone, you'll wrestle in that suit. Shut up, get on with your role. You know, you should be appreciative to be in the situation you're in, fighting Randy Orton at WrestleMania. And imagine wrestling in that suit, right? Now, if Bray Wyatt had had his say-so, we've recently seen some concept art suggesting a brief sketch that Cole Scarborough, of course the tattoo artist, basically jotted up in 2 hours, which I think is phenomenal, a brief concept art of a Fiend burnt version. And if we look at that concept art, that makes so much sense because it looks breathable. I love the way you could see like bits of skull. It was a cool mask. It was one you could actually see him using further down the line. And if you wanted to turn him back to the original version of the Fiend mask, you could. But ultimately, main thing being here, he could wrestle in it and it looked cool. Now, I'm not taking anything away from the burnt version that we saw. I still think it was pretty cool. But it didn't have any longevity with it. And yes, it was a short-term storyline, but if you're going to have him spend all that time putting all that effort into those props and that attire and that mask to just wear it a few times on Monday Night Raw and attack Randy Orton, that clearly wasn't the plan. I think Vince's plan was you're going to wrestle in that. And Bray went, that's stupid, that's daft, you've gone with my idea. You know, we'd have gone away and had that version. And not to mention, apparently, according to reports, there was going to be some live version of the Firefly Funhouse. And how cool is that? Again, there was some brief mock-up art of Huskus. Obviously, Huskus the pig. The pig that we saw, of course, in the Firefly Funhouse. I thought he's one of the coolest characters. It was obviously a kind of link to Husky Harris back in the past, and basically saying that's how he used to be, lazy and a bit of a pig. Which I thought was really cool. But to bring that to life in the sketches that we've seen look phenomenal. They're really cool. That would have been absolutely menacing and terrifying. Now, allegedly, Vince McMahon didn't agree with Bray Wyatt wanting to perform that himself personally, because Bray Wyatt wanted a hand in and a role in that, because it was his creation, obviously. And that would have been cool. Imagine that. Yeah, of course we'd all know it was Bray Wyatt, but in these different versions, these terrifying, like, demonic Firefly Funhouse brought to life versions. There was also mocks up of Alexa Bliss, versions of painted and non-painted masks, and they look cool as well. Like, I think what we're getting here and taking from this is Bray had all these ideas and these creative ideas, actually had a mock-up sketches that looked absolutely badass, and Vince went, no, leave it up to my team, here you are, here's your burnt rubber like version, which literally was like all the way over the top of his head as well. So like, how the hell are you going to breathe in that, let alone wrestle? And he went, right, that's what you're going to do. That's your role. That's what you're going to go to WrestleMania. And he just thought, enough's enough now. Not only have you had, 25,000 curb stomps I've known sold because of your idea in Hell in the Cell. I lost the Goldberg clean. I've had this 6-month build-up. And it's very true, or seems that this is the truth here, that WWE never had a clear ending with this WrestleMania 37. And think about that logically, right? Randy Orton burns the Fiend alive. Okay? On paper, he should be dead, but obviously we know it doesn't work like that, and there is a little bit of a hocus pocus element to Bray Wyatt's act, which I love. There's a time and place for it, and it works with him. It makes sense for him to come back in a different form. Now, if he came back with this version that he was originally his concept art, his concept version, or Cole Scarborough's concept art that he'd bring to life, then you could have followed that on. The two could have wrestled in the burnt version. The Fiend would have won. But regardless, the Fiend surely wins that. What is the point also in having a debut of a demonic version of Alexa Bliss, which again, cool props, love the makeup and the props on that, to then what's happened since? You've shit the bed again. You haven't followed through what you say you're going to do. Again, the similar theme with WWE, time and time again. And I know you'll say, well, why are you watching the product? Because it can be better. Look at the talent pool you have within WWE. It can be so much better. If you listen to your fans, book appropriately. It's okay for people to lose clean every now and then if it has a sense and a future and a backup storyline behind it, but it never made any sense for The Fiend to lose to Randy Orton. Allegedly, Randy Orton was furious with the storyline. People come up to them backstage after that match and basically were apologetic for how that turned out. And surely you've got to think there's even creative people behind the scenes livid about that decision, because it didn't make any sense. Which shows you're only ever pleasing one man in WWE, and that's Vince McMahon. Him and his paycheck. And it's gonna come up and bite him in the arse down the line. Trust me, it will. But of course, the positive take from this is Wyndham Rotunda is now free from WWE to roam where he likes. That's almost a quote from his theme, roaming freely, and showcase his creative genius somewhere else, whether it be Hollywood or AEW or Impact. Wherever he goes, he will be dealt with and treated with the way he deserves. But absolute disgrace saying fired by budget cuts, getting your Scrooges behind the scenes to agree with Vince McMahon. Yeah, you were difficult to work with. You would be if your character was booked like that. So stop making those excuses. Be really interesting to hear more reports that come to light, because I'm really looking forward to hearing them and getting the truth. And hopefully soon we're going to get the truth in the cult of Wyndham. Whatever that may be, sounds like a podcast. We'll wait and hear. Thank you so much for watching the video. What do you think, the ins and outs and what happened here? And also, as I said earlier as well, give this video a like if you'd like to see Vince McMahon vanish from WWE. Let someone new come in, take it over, and book it properly, because it's not good. Thank you so much. It would be awesome if you could like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, of course, and we'll see you in another video. And also, big thank you to all current subscribers at the moment. It means the world for you subscribing to the channel, and we'll see you soon. Take care.